when Michael Jackson died, and Whitney Houston, because it was both, pharmaceutical overdose. I mean, getting them on pharmaceuticals is no better than getting them on any legal drugs and everything like that. I had hoped, so hoped, that there would be a discussion in this country of what we are doing to our patrimony. I mean, Michael Jackson, I know, and this is a story that we see all the time with the domestic violence people. That child, this was a highly dysfunctional family. I mean, I don't know if there was sexual abuse or whatever, but highly dysfunctional. And, it just reproduces the dysfunctionality. So I'm not, I don't know what the truth is behind any allegations against Michael Jackson, but, it just repeats itself. Believe me, all of us domestic violence people know this. But, however, I'll play you something at the end. God, you look at that child when he was young. He was adorable. And such talent. Such amazing talent. Whitney Houston as well. I mean, that woman's voice blows me away. And what do we do? It's this predatory, exploitative. I mean, I know what these people feel like. Believe me, I've had it around me over a lot. Not to their extent. But anytime you get any kind of power or prestige or something like that, all you get around you are parasites. They're all looking to take a piece of you and take a piece of the money that you got and the fame and everything like that. And it's a horrible life. And we've got, there's so much money in the music business and the football and all of that stuff that it just becomes corrupt by itself. So anyway, today I wanted to, I did the first presentation was the Fourth Reich. The second was the narcissism epidemic. Today, actually, I'm going to go back and read a little bit. No, this is Dark Money that I'm going to read from. How we got here. How we got here. The 60s and 70s, it was a lot of violence and everything like that. But there were some inroads within the civil rights movement and rights for people. And since the 80s, that backtracked. And, okay, so I just want to point out, because this brings me into affirmative action. So, let me play this for you. Because it's something. 3 themes that I'll come back to. Look at this.
3 themes that I'll come back to.
Okay, anyway, as I say, 3 themes that I'll come back to. Managerialism. This was an American philosopher in 41, Burnham. Alpha dominance feminism. Betty Friedan denounced the feminist movement starting in 81. And affirmative action. Now, affirmative action, I want to go back to for a second. My grandfather was the first white lawyer to successfully defend a black man in the Deep South in Butler, Alabama in 1910. And that was 7 years before Harper Lee's father unsuccessfully defended a black man, and then which made her, was the case that she did when she wrote about To Kill a Mockingbird. I think the details were changed a little bit, but it was based on that case. And Harper Lee even went back and said that she was, disappointed with her father because she didn't think that, he was all that, anti-racist. But my grandfather, he did successfully. It was the first case. It was 1910. And Congressman Taylor of Alabama at the time was so impressed with his argumentation, he brought him up to Washington, where my grandfather worked in intelligence work, basically a spy. And I know something, he was in Mexico with Pancho Villa and stuff like that. I actually was watching a movie about Pancho Villa last night. But he eventually left and retired because he got involved in some subversive activity. We don't really know. My father had said that he even told my father his life and my grandmother's life would be in danger. So I think it was pretty bad. But you know, that's lost. I mean, I don't know what that is, you guys. So you can torture me, but I don't know what happened. But my point being, this was the same year that the NAACP was started by Du Bois. And Du Bois was, you know, the affirmative action and favoritism, basically, for African Americans to bring them into equality. And Booker T. Washington, who was from the North, if my memory serves me, you know, felt that no, that was not the road to go down, and that we had to, you know, it wasn't that the African Americans had to prove themselves, but you had to have a certain period of education and social development and everything like that. Because you have to remember, these people have been living as slaves. And, you know, I as a mother, I mean, I put myself in some woman's place as a slave at that time. And I have a son, you know, and a daughter. First, I'm going to teach my son, you keep your eyes down, you keep your mouth shut, you don't challenge anybody, because they'll kill you. And they'll kill you like that. And you're their property and they can do it. So you better learn how to be submissive and not open your mouth and not mouth off to anybody, because it's going to kill you. You'll be dead. And the daughters, of course, you're worried about, you know, the sexual assaults and rapes and everything like that. So, you know, this was a dysfunctional situation for these women to be in. And you better be damn oppressive of your children if you wanted them to survive. So, you know, and a real bitch. So, you know, you have this whole dysfunctional, and family dynamics go from one generation to another. So, and I'm not just talking about the African American. You see this with every, you know, I think there's different flavors within the different oppressions that mothers transmit to their children, but it's pretty much all the same. And, you know, shut up, learn your lines, and move as directed, as Barbara Streisand, one of her songs says. So anyway, affirmative action, I really am challenging that with diversity. So let me backtrack to the dark money and how we got to this situation starting in the 80s after some advances. I mean, these were baby steps, but they were steps forward. So I'm sure everybody's heard about the Koch brothers. So given the size of their fortune, Charles and David Koch automatically had extraordinary influence. But for many years, they had magnified their reach further by joining forces with a small and intensely ideological group of like-minded political allies, many of whose personal fortunes were also unfathomably large. This faction hoped to use their wealth to advance a strain of conservative, libertarian politics that was so far out on the political fringe as recently as 1980. When David Koch ran for vice president of the United States on the Libertarian Party ticket, it received only 1% of the American vote. At the time, the conservative icon William F. Buckley Jr. dismissed their views as anarcho-totalitarianism, which it is. I mean, We'll get into that later. And the last thing anybody wants is anarchy. Lived with it too much in my life. The Kochs failed at the ballot box in the 1980s, but instead of accepting Americans' verdict, they set out to change how it voted. They used their fortune to impose their minority views on the majority by other means. In the years since they were trounced at the polls, they poured hundreds of millions of dollars into a stealthy effort. Excuse me. I'm going to put on my glasses and see if this helps some. Stealthy effort to move their political views from the fringe to the center of American political life, with the same foresight and perseverance with which they invested in their businesses. They funded and built a daunting national political machine. As far back as 1976, Charles Koch, who was trained as an engineer, began planning a movement that would sweep the country. As a former member of the John Birch Society, he had a radical goal. In 1978, he declared, "Our movement must destroy the prevalent statist paradigm." To this end, the Kochs waged a long and remarkable battle of ideas. And I'll get back to this. Everybody thinks that ideas don't matter. I mean, even the people who work at the think tanks and stuff like that, and the NGOs, the underlings are like, that doesn't mean anything. It's just a bunch of blah, 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 blah. And it is. Because nobody will take it to the courts. Nobody will challenge anybody. It's just, I see it everywhere I've worked, at the Institute for Capacity Development, at the IMF, the restaurant, particularly Kalari. Everybody whine and complain and cry and come to me and like, oh my God, this place is a disaster. It's a mess. I mean, there's labor rights violations all over the place. Disorganization. This gets into managerialism. Too many chefs spoil the soup. You need leadership. You need a manager, a project manager, somebody who is overseeing everything like that. But when you get a whole bunch of them in there and all they do is fight for power and control, it just creates chaos. And that's all that's happening. And this is managerialism. The function, the administrative function, or, in restaurants, anything, the bussers, people aren't respected for their jobs. And, okay, you don't need an Einstein for this stuff, but you do need somebody with a brain. I mean, this is what I told Gina Pioni of ICD, that's the Institute for Capacity Development, before I left. And she knows about all of my research, all of my stuff. And she's the head of change and management at the IMF at the HR department now. She's not changing anything. She's just reinforcing the dysfunctionality that's been going on in there, as Christine Lagarde did, which I will demonstrate and everything. So ideas do matter. It's just if you don't do anything with those ideas and sit on a podium and blah, 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 they don't matter. They don't. So, to this end, the Kochs waged a long and remarkable battle of ideas. They subsidized networks of seemingly unconnected think tanks and academic programs and spawned advocacy groups to make their arguments in the national political debate. They hired lobbyists to push their interest in Congress and operatives to create synthetic grassroots groups to give their movement political momentum on the ground. In addition, they financed legal groups and judicial junkets to press their case in the courts. See, they went to the courts. Eventually, they added to this a private political machine that rivaled and threatened to subsume the Republican Party. Much of this activism was cloaked in secrecy and presented as philanthropy, leaving almost no money trail that the public could trace. But cumulative, it formed, as one of their operatives boasted in 2015, a fully integrated network. And this is where I'm going to get into my presentation afterwards. this one here. Networking. Networking is important. But if it's just to go out and pass out business cards so you can get invited to some frickin' party. I mean, there was one guy, Gerd Schwartz, at ICD. I mean, this man had a whole box of business cards. And I mailed you when she came in. She's like, I'm not organizing those. I was like, if that's what he wants you to do, that's what you do. I mean, believe me, these secretaries over there, they need a big wake-up call. And all of the people in the department who are crying continually, and particularly Adrian Thapa, my understanding is things just get worse and worse and worse with her, which doesn't surprise me. But anyway, you know, you guys over at ICD, crying in your soup, grow a pair. The Kochs were unusually single-minded, but they were not alone. They were among a small, rarefied group of hugely wealthy, arch-conservative families that for decades poured money, often with little public disclosure, into influencing how Americans thought and voted. Their efforts began in earnest during the second half of the 20th century. In addition to the Kochs, this group included Richard Mellon Scaife, an heir to the Mellon banking and Gulf oil fortunes. Oh God, if you ever see his out at Middleburg, his farm, impressive. He's got the first wife has her house there. The second wife, there's airstrips all over the place and everything. When I went there and drove through, I was like, whoa. So Harry and Lynn Bradley, Midwesterners enriched by defense contracts. John M. Olin, a chemical and munitions company titan, the Coors Brewing family of Colorado, and the DeVos family of Michigan, founders of the Amway marketing empire. Amway is one of those pyramid things. Each was different, but together they formed a new generation of philanthropes, bent on using billions of dollars from their private foundations to alter the direction of American politics. And they were successful. When these donors began their quest to remake America along the lines of their beliefs, their ideas were, if anything, considered marginal. They challenged the widely accepted post-World War II consensus that an activist government was a force for public good. Instead, they argued for limited government, drastically lower personal and corporate taxes, minimal social services for the needy, and much less oversight of industry, particularly in the environmental areas. They said they were driven by principle, but their positions dovetailed, seemingly, with their personal financial interest. By Ronald Reagan's presidency, their views had begun to gain more traction. For the most part, they were still seen as defining the extreme right edge of the right wing, but both the Republican Party and much of the country were trending their way. I'm getting something beeping. I'm not really sure where it is. I hope it's not my camera. So, why did you pop up? Oh, I think it's my phone. Hold on a second. Leave me alone. These phones, they drive me crazy. So, what I want to talk about today is, because I've talked, about RICO. In fact, somebody was just saying, he tried to tell me, oh yeah, RICO in the Supreme Court. And I said, look, I'm challenging the legitimacy of the American government, so of course I'm challenging the legitimacy of the Supreme Court. And believe me, I got a book back there, which I haven't read yet, but I've read the introduction, and I got more than enough evidence on what's going on there. So, let me show you this, because this is basically what I am trying to find. You can see this. What I'm trying to find. sorry, my room is not really big, so I'm trying to get all of this, can't get this far enough away. So, originally, how everything started for me, my court case and everything like that, and how I got into challenging family courts, was Wilcox versus Spain. And this, basically what I'm challenging is the second jurisprudence on violence against women as human rights violations, which is González Carreño versus Spain, and it's a CEDAW, the Convention on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, 2014. And the defense, the unaccepted defense, because the Spanish people lost, the Spanish government lost, was judicial error and a failure to exhaust domestic remedies. Well, what I show them is judicial error, my ass, they're doing it on purpose. And second, domestic remedies, oh, you people, I knew that was coming. So I domestic remedies, I exhausted domestic remedies that these people didn't even know existed. Which, I don't have everything here because it's too much. But my favorite in the whole thing, I went through the Instituto de Mujer. They said we don't do that like you do now. Oh my goodness. This thing is driving me crazy. Hold on. Shut up. Hold on just a second. I'm going to put it in the other room and so it'll shut up. Instituto Mujer, I'm like, forget you guys, what do you do now? Then I went through the Defensor del Pueblo, in a lawsuit, and then the Consejo de Poder Judicial, or again, full of crap. But my favorite was the Colegio de Abogados de Madrid, which is the Bar Association of Madrid. They claimed, and I did appeal and everything like that, they claimed that it was the right of lawyers to violate the rights of their clients under judicial independence. See, this is one of the huge problems. The regulators don't have anything in their heads. They have no idea what they're talking about. I mean, this is one of my big beefs with the Institute for Capacity Development, but also all of the universities. Because basically the Institute for Capacity Development, they call it the IMF University. I'm like, oh great, you're going to put in another frickin' university. I mean, these guys, you're trying to teach them what they already should have learned, not even on their PhD, but I'll go into some of the training stuff that they're doing, not only in their PhD and their bachelor stuff. I mean, these people, you can give them classes and classes and classes and classes. If they don't have a frickin' brain, it does no good. Yeah, they can memorize stuff, they can pass tests, but they don't understand anything. I mean, I promise, I've been doing this for 15 years now, if not my entire life, and I'm like, you people, you're so far up in your ivory towers and looking down at me. With one course of commercial law, I understand more about the principles of law than you. One course, bachelor level, of international econ, I understand it better than you. All of this stuff, we get into religion, philosophy, and everything. I'm like, you may be able to talk the talk, but you don't understand how it applies to real life. So you're just wasting everybody, and you're a fraud. You're a fraud. So that's how I started out. So then, of course, when I saw everything that my lawyers were doing to me in Spain, and believe me, I went through 8. They treated me like I was crazy because I kept on firing lawyers and hiring another. I said, well, if you would find me a lawyer who knows the law, then maybe I wouldn't have to be changing all the time. One woman years and years ago, she asked me, this was Facebook, message. She said, can you recommend a lawyer? I said, no. And you'll get the same answer from everybody else. Everybody, the NGOs, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. I mean, I want to see these people in court like you can't believe. Anyway, I told the poor woman, I said, look, finding a lawyer is like finding your Prince Charming. You gotta kiss a lot of toads until you find your prince, and in the meantime, they've milked you for all you got. I mean, until they clean up the courts. I mean, and this is where I keep on going back to John Dickinson. John Dickinson understood that. And he was a British trained barrister. I'm a self-trained barrister. That's what I keep on trying to explain to everybody. I've argued this. I've argued it. I have the argumentation. There are no gaps. There are no loopholes. I can promise you, when I do something, it's airtight. It's airtight. But I just need some lawyers to start submitting, and to start submitting with conviction. You know, I don't want some lawyer to come on. I mean, I'm sure I could find somebody, oh yeah, I'll fill it out. That's what they all do. Yeah, I'll submit. Well, they don't care what they're submitting. They don't even understand it. So, once I see all of that, I go over to my consulate. I actually have a French nationality as well as my Spanish. As well as my American. So I go to the American consulate. They hang me out to dry. There's nothing they can do. There's nothing I can do. I said, it's your job. This is why you exist. You exist. This comes under within the international human rights and legal, there's an obligation to protect of a government. Well, this is the failure to protect. So I go to the American consulate, hang me out to dry. I keep on going back and back. I wrote a letter to the ambassador. So Ambassador Solomont and all of the other ambassadors who have followed, who all got a letter from me, are up a creek real bad, because they were notified. So I also go to the French consulate. And they keep on telling me, nothing we can do, nothing you can do. I'm like, people, what do you think you do here? Just pass out passports? And you make money off of it. Believe me, look at the budget of the State Department. You'll see the passport part of the embassies, they're making money. The consulates. That's all they do. It's all about making money.